Good afternoon, guys. I want to thank everyone that's here today and for braving the inclement weather. I just want to give some background on the current legal status between the city of San Benito and the San Benito EDC with the Barco Development Group. Back in 2013, the United States Economic Development Administration awarded the San Benito EDC $1.2 million to purchase over 9 acres of land, and that the intention was to build a mixed-use development. In 2018, the city of San Benito, the San Benito EDC, and Varco Real Estate Group entered into a performance agreement that required certain specific performance criteria. In 2024, after years of delay, the San Benito EDC and the city of San Benito terminated that performance agreement along with a ground lease. And that termination was based on certain performance criteria not being satisfied and years of delay. Recently, we've learned that an initial lien that was put on the property of $2.5 million that both the city of San Benito and the San Benito EDC had initially consented to was followed up by a second lien filed on the property of $3.4 million. Now, the difference between the first lien that was consented to and voted on by city leaders is that the most recent one in 2023 never made it before the city commission, never made it before the San Benito EDC board of directors. There was never a posted meeting when this second lien was voted on. There was never approval by the San Benito City Commission. There was never approval by the board of directors of the San Benito EDC. And it never appeared on any agenda that was legally posted. That is completely different and inconsistent with the first loan. A few days ago, the city of San Benito, the EDC filed a lawsuit against the Texas Regional Bank for that second lien. There was numerous fiduciary breaches made by the bank. They had numerous fiduciary responsibilities to both the city of San Benito and the San Benito EDC as our depository bank. So we have now entered into a second lawsuit against the bank, and the intention is to seek damages and a removal of that second lien on this property. We're going to conduct a full-scale review of lending practices that led up to the filing and the signing of that second lien. So this exhibit here that we have shows the meetings that took place leading up to the signing of that second lien in May of 2023. Each of these meetings failed to actually have the consent of the board of directors that would have authorized that second lien. And the signature of the former executive director appears there on the left of this diagram. And here are the meetings that took place on that particular 3-month period leading up to May of 2023. Now, what's important, in addition to the false filing and fraudulent filing of that second lien, was the valuation of what is currently being alleged as owed to the bank. The bank is claiming that it's owed under 2 liens approximately $6 million. However, in 2024, the development group filed with the county appraisal district what it believed was its opinion of the valuation of the improvements of the Resaca Village. And those totaled just over $2 million. So as we move forward into this new lawsuit, we're going to try to count and figure out where the unaccounted for $2 million is. And we're going to ask the bank and its shareholders and its representatives to provide some support for that. We're also currently reaching out to those formerly affiliated with the San Benito EDC, which includes former employees and former board members. And that's how we're proceeding in this new legal development. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions that anybody might have.
Can we first of all get your first and last name and your official title?
Michael Pruneda, and I'm the attorney for the San Benito EDC.
And when you mentioned that there were meetings that the city was not made aware of, can you clarify who is supposed to be holding those meetings and notifying you, what their duty was to notify you?
The only way a lien could have been approved and actually recorded against the land that the EDC owns would have been if the board of directors would have voted on it. And because the initial agreement with the city and the EDC involved three parties, which was the development group, the city, and the Economic Development Corporation, this would have increased the financial liability on the property. It would have actually had to have gone as well to the city council.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't apologize. I didn't introduce myself, so I apologize. I'm Dina Arevalo with my San Antonio. Can you talk a little bit about, so these liens, this property is owned by the city or the EDC?
This property, the 9 acres, is owned by the San Benito Economic Development Corporation.
So what is this debt from?
The debt is allegedly from the construction activities that has taken place over the course of 7 years since 2018 by the Varco Real Estate Group.
But you guys as public entities, the city and the EDC, were not responsible for that construction, right? That was a third-party company that was...
Well, it was a third-party company that was contracted by both the city and the Economic Development Corporation. However, there's only been one vote taken that would have allowed a lien to be placed on that property, and that was in 2018. In total, 2.5 million, not an additional 3.4 million.
And can you talk about the nature of the performance agreement that you mentioned with Varco? What were some of the highlights of that performance agreement? What did the company promise to do? And did the city or EDC offer the company economic incentives, including tax abatements?
Well, the initial incentive, and I think the big incentive would have been if they would have attained all their performance requirements, they would have purchased the property outright once each and every one of those requirements was satisfied for $1. So all they had to do was meet their deadlines for filing for completion of each of the 4 phases of the development, and making sure that the Economic Development Corporation was fully insured, and that everyone that was taking a part in construction was fully insured. And there was a lot of delays that ultimately resulted in delay notices and ultimately the termination of these contracts.
So San Benito's plan originally was to convey the property to this commercial developer on a lease purchase agreement?
That is correct.
And so when the dispute first arose within the last couple of years, was Varco still within their tenant term, or had the city done any lease extensions, anything like that?
There were alleged extensions that were being discussed between the Economic Development Corporation and the development group. However, those extensions were never approved in writing by the city council, which is what the initial performance agreement required.
So it's kind of a big step, right, for a public entity like you guys, a small town, to take on a huge bank. What does it mean to file this kind of litigation and go up kind of against a Goliath?
Well, they have certain lending requirements as well and regulations, and as our depository bank, they had fiduciary responsibility. So if you're going to be signing a check, there's certain resolutions, there's certain signatory cards that need to be executed. And in this case, when you're talking about a $3.4 million second lien put on public property, you better ensure that there's a resolution and at least official action taken by the governing body, which in this case, it didn't happen.
So what are you all alleging, if you're alleging anything, that maybe there was a rogue actor, or the board did this on their own, or they didn't do it at all?
The board did not act, and as far as there being private involvement or anyone that was acting behind the scenes, we're currently doing a review of that. It's still under investigation, and like I said before, we are reaching out to former employees and former board members that were affiliated with this organization at that time.
Could this lead to criminal charges?
Well, I'm going to leave that to the chief, but as you know, and as I pointed out, in order for there to be action, there has to be public legal posting of these meetings and the action that's to be taken. And if there were deliberations and actions happening outside of the board, you could be looking at open meetings violations. And again, I'll leave any criminal allegations or criminal review to the chief.
Are you guys suspecting, or is it too early to say that there's maybe fraud involved, or some kind of?
We're looking at that.
Is the bank board subject to TOMA? The Texas Open Meetings Act?
No, our board is.
Okay, then let me try to ask a clarifying question. So you're alleging that these meetings were by Benito or the EDC?
They should have been.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said before, if these documents were executed and they used these documents to go and file a second lien upwards of 3.4 million, there should have been official action and a legal posting that would have authorized that, and we don't have that in this case.
And where is this litigation being filed? What jurisdiction?
The current case against the developer or the bank?
Both, if you don't mind.
The development group is, our litigation is in Cameron County, and the litigation filed against the bank is in Hidalgo County.
Why a different county as a venue?
It was the agreement under our depository agreement with the bank that any litigation were to be filed in Hidalgo County.
So, just another background question. I used to report on the Rio Grande Valley for the Monitor, not really in Cameron County. So for somebody like me, my readers who don't know what's going on, in a nutshell, can you describe what's going on right now between you, the bank, Varco?
You know, this dispute has been ongoing for last year against the development group, and, you know, recent discoveries on lending practices and lien practices have uncovered additional obligations and additional violations that we believe required a second lawsuit because they did owe fiduciary duties to not only the city but our Economic Development Corporation as our depository bank. And because of those fiduciary breaches, you know, we felt compelled to not only request initially that they remove the second lien, but when that wasn't done, to actually file a litigation in court.
Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments about this litigation?
Just trying to clear it up. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, there's certain guidelines and norms that municipal governments have to follow. Been involved in a lot of third-party development in other cities and other areas, and this needs to be cleared up, not only for us, but also for the taxpayers. That's our job.
How and when was this discovered? You know, how and when was this?
The second lien?
Yeah,
The second lien that was recorded against the public's property was actually provided to us by the bank's attorneys, which we had never seen before. You know, a full review of our records and our files never revealed that this second lien had ever been approved, much less even provided to the corporation.
But would a debtor have the authority to approve a lien, you know, issued by a creditor? They don't need your approval to put a lien, do they?
If it's our property, they do.
They have a duty to notify you, but not to get an approval.
That was the agreement that we entered into with the lender at the time that would have spurred the initial development. Which is why you see, if you were to look at the initial filing and recording, it has at the time, the mayor, the city secretary, and the president of the Economic Development Corporation, all governing bodies were in approval. Whereas if you look at the second one, none of those city leaders were, their signatures will not appear on the second one.
So San Benito is a small community, and this is not the first dispute that has unfortunately plagued you guys within the last few months. This might be a question for the city manager and Mr. Mayor. Being such a small community, so much litigation, so much pending disputes, does San Benito have the financial wherewithal to handle these kinds of disputes, these drawn-out processes? We all know litigation can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes, we do.
Mr. Mayor?
Do I say anything? I was told.
It's a yes or no question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're gonna do it.
But on the second one, just to be clear, the commission didn't approve it, but are you saying not even the EDC board?
Neither body approved it. Yeah, and that's unlike and outside the norm. If you were to look at the first lien for $2.5 million, all bodies voted on it and they consented to it in writing. The second one will not have any evidence that it was approved.
I don't think you ever gave me a time frame in terms of when it was discovered, when they contacted you about the second lien?
This last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks?
Last 2 weeks.
And that was obviously a bank official, but was it the?
It was the bank's legal representatives.
I see.
Would it be possible to get copies of the original performance agreement and then any of these documents?
Sure, I'll give you my email and I'll provide that to you after.
Can we do it in Spanish?
We can do that after we're done.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fine.
Any other questions? Thank you, guys.